You're listening to The Complete Entrepreneur, and today we're talking about your why, your purpose. Why is it that we do what we do as entrepreneurs?
We're going to be expanding and digging into who you are and what makes you tick. That's going to be an interesting topic for entrepreneurs today, because let me tell you, it's something which actually forms the bedrock of why you do what you do, is really understanding who you are. So we're going to try to unpack this within the next hour, and it's going to be a great time together. But most importantly, once again, I always say this, what we like to do is hear from you. Understanding who you are is the key to becoming a successful entrepreneur. It's not the what or the how that is transformative, but the why you do what you do that gets you out of your bed each day. And I know that's so true for myself. And there's a great passage, I must admit, I think it's in Corinthians in the Bible, where Paul said, why is it that I do the things that I don't want to do, and I don't do the things that I do want to do? And that's what this topic is all about. And that was from an apostle Paul, who was part of changing history in many respects. Yeah, so I look at someone like that, and I reflect to myself, why is it that I get out of bed each day? And I must admit, when my eyes open in the morning, I don't know about you, if you're an entrepreneur like this, you'll relate to it. But when my eyes open in the morning, my brain just kicks into gear and is firing. And I'm so excited to get up each day. And I don't like, if you speak to my wife, she'll say, you know what, you're just so annoying, Mike. Like I'm looking for my cup of tea, and I'm bleary eyed or something like that. And I'd much rather be back in bed. I can't wait to get up. I really can't wait to get up. Some people sleep in on the weekend. I get up early. Why? Because life to me is so exciting, and you sit at your desk and you think, what fresh challenges am I going to be facing today? But more than that, what am I going to learn about myself today in how I interact with those challenges? Let me start with a story as well. One of the things that, as I began to research this topic, it was a lot of it is all about, where do you get your self-esteem from? And I was reading this article, and I think it was Psychology Today, about this. And the person said, "Oh, really, it's a lot of things from your childhood." And I began to reflect on my childhood and some of the early memories of my childhood. And one of the things I'm so grateful to my parents for is they instilled into me a sense of, you can do anything. You literally can do anything. Just, Michael, the world is your oyster. You can do anything. All you've got to do is focus on it and go after it. But you can do anything. And don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. Yeah, and it's funny when you remember as a kid various key points where that was really inculcated into me, that I could do anything. So there I was, sitting in front of the television watching Apollo 17 lift off. Back, it was in 1972, and it was a 74 for Apollo 17. But I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing it lift off as a kid, a young kid, and I would have been about 6 years old then. And I said to myself, I can be an astronaut if I really want to. And I held on to that the whole of my life, and entrepreneurial life. And I said to friends of mine, I said, at last, I think it may actually happen that I'm going to go to space. Because I'm looking at people like Virgin and Virgin Galactic, and I'm looking at SpaceX, and I'm looking at what's happening with Blue Origin. Jeff Bezos, what he's doing with tourists in the orbit. And I'm thinking, all it now is no longer like you've got to be born in the right country or anything like that. All I've got to do is make sure I generate enough cash in my business so I can pay the ticket, and I can go to space, and I'm going to be an astronaut. And it was like, and I remember that 6-year-old where I said to my parents, I'm going to be an astronaut one day. They didn't say, oh, look, focus on something more realistic. Go on. You need to really just focus on something realistic. I said, no, I'm going to be an astronaut one day. Yeah, and I'm going to do it. So the question I have for you is this. what is your childhood done for you? What are your parents? What are those grandparents? Those important people in your life, what have they said to you, and how has that began to form who you are? And and as an entrepreneur, and how has that changed who you are? Because you'll find that quite often when you speak to entrepreneurs, there will be various instances of their life, or there'll be various people in their life, like I had with my parents, that have done something transformative in the early stages of your childhood and didn't go along and say, no, be more realistic, come on, be sensible. But they said, no, you can do it. And now you find yourself running a business and you have that attitude born deep inside of, yeah, I can do this. I can sit at my desk and tackle another problem. I can deal with another irate client. I can go along and deal with that problem with a supplier. Oh, and I need to raise a whole lot of cash in the next 4 weeks or I'm at the back door. I can do that. Yeah, and it's an incredible trait that entrepreneurs quite often have. So I just want to flip across to you, Colin, for a second. Were there some instances in your life, even when you look at your childhood, where you sort of said, yeah, that is something, when you reflect on it, that was something that really changed me as a young kid, which I've now carried into my adulthood? Was there a person or some incident in your life?
Yeah, and there's a lot of thoughts I have about this. I didn't know we were going to go back into our childhood here, but I will, I'll do some digging here and share some thoughts. Because there's really three reasons why I get up every day and go to work, and I'm trying to think of that with respect to my childhood as well. But one is to make money. One's to take another hit from the entrepreneur drug, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the third is, to follow the purpose of our business because we believe in it and it's doing something, more than just trying to create a livelihood for everyone in our company. So, I go back to my childhood and I think about, the different paper routes and whatnot, the things that I had. I also grew up with farms in the family and we spent the summers on the farm. It was hard work. We were always doing something. Like there was always some little it was we not things we were doing, like for instance we would have puppy dogs and we would breed them and then we would sell them at the flea market, or we would set up a vegetable stand and we'd be selling strawberries and we'd go, there were just so many little business enterprises that we did when we were young. And I think that does have an impact on you in more ways than one, because when I mentioned earlier about this idea of, taking a hit from the entrepreneurial, like when I mean a hit, I'm talking like a drug here. It is an addiction. When I go to work and, I tap in another domain name or register a great domain name, or, this morning I was doing it. I was looking at my new vacation rental property. I was looking at all the reservations that were coming in for that. There's some dopamine or something going off in your brain as this entrepreneur is triggering you get very excited about that. Maybe it's a gambler's addiction. I don't know, but I think there's something here that a lot of entrepreneurs get, and I know I get, is that you're really attracted to that risk environment, and you really have a lot of fun when it comes down to it, making launching a new business or making money. Beyond that, it's all about purpose. We started paw.com really because we had aging dogs and we knew that our dogs wanted to be comfortable, and the CEO of that company was also big on design. So he created designs that would work really well for the home, and he created these beautiful memory foam pet rugs that became leading in, we actually pioneered the entire space of pet rugs. Now there's many companies developing them, but we were the ones who pioneered that. And we pioneered a number of other innovative products as well at paw.com. With .club, Michael, which is an alternative to .com, .net, .org, that was a company we just sold to GoDaddy. And with that one, it was really a global micro global brand. And our, thought there was we wanted to make it easy and simple for small businesses or entrepreneurs all over the world to set up a brandable domain name, because quite frankly, there are 120 million .coms already registered. So I think the importance of a purpose, and I really am jumping around a lot here, but the importance of a purpose in your business is that it gets you through the hard times. It gets you through those times when you know what, I don't even know what I'm doing here today. I'm not making any money. This is really, I'm working 12 hours a day. Oh, I'm doing that because I'm actually changing the world. I'm actually making a difference in the world. And, I think that's important for any entrepreneur in any business because it gets you through the hard time.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting hearing from you, Colin. There, you talk about your childhood and having like the selling puppy dogs and all that sort of stuff at the flea market and selling vegetables or something like that. And then you went from there, and I was interested in the way you sort of traveled in your own thinking just then. You went from there into talking about what was it? Talking about the drug of entrepreneurship.
Well, it's because when
And
I when you asked me the question about childhood, I was thinking about talking about, how I feel it every day. And then I began to think about realizing that, hey, wait a minute. I think when I was a child, I caught the drug and it never went away. It was an addiction. I know it sounds crazy. Maybe it does. I don't know. But
no, I don't think it's crazy at all, actually. I actually think it is an addiction. And I find when I speak to other entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that have come on the stage here at the Complete Entrepreneur, and by the way, if you want to join the conversation, we would love to hear from you. Please stick up your hand and we'll invite you to the stage and let's participate together in a learning session together. And I think it's a really exciting time doing that. But I think that in when you discuss that entrepreneurship is a drug, and for many of us, it is exactly that. I know for myself, I just love the thrill of the kill and the chasing down of a client, the then fulfilling of a service to that client, and then seeing that client happy. There's just something about that. I remember there was a guy who offered me a job many years ago now, and I think about 20 something years ago, and offered me this fantastic job. It really was. It was an amazing job and great pay and all that sort of stuff. And I said to him, look, I got to turn you down. I'm sorry. I'm really grateful and all that sort of stuff for the opportunity and really appreciate you considering me. And he said, why isn't it enough money? And I said, you don't understand. I've never had a salary in my life. I've never had a salary in my life other than like a vacation job as a kid or something like that. But I've never had a salary in my life. And the thought that I could be working like for an 8-hour day and get paid the same matter what, or maybe a bonus or something like that. It's just different from my mindset. And it's not who I am. And I said to him, I'm an entrepreneur and I think very differently. And I'm not saying you can't have internal entrepreneurs that do like work 8 hours a day and have bonuses. I was talking about me, and I began to understand something in that instance about me and what I really want and what was making me tick. And the thing I loved was just, I hate to say it, I love the adversity of entrepreneurship. I love the challenges of entrepreneurship. There's nothing like it, and it's that's why I'm reflecting also on that. You talk about the drug of entrepreneurship, and I'm definitely, when I think about it, I'm addicted to that drug. I'm definitely addicted to that drug. There's something about running an enterprise and seeing something created from nothing, and suddenly it's there, and it just lights me up. It really does. Like I look at it and go, my gosh, it wasn't there before. Now it is. And other people are verifying that my excitement because they're buying it. It's just like you talked about Paw.com. I'd love to flip across to Jeff and then we'll come to Roy because Roy, it's great to have you on the stage with us. So, but Jeff, I just want to come to you first. And you're doing you're the CMO, if I'm correct, of Paw.com. And do you have that sort of same sort of excitement that we're talking about? There's like that adrenaline hit almost, like when you've made these incredible products and you see someone buying the products, and it's like an endorsement almost. Do you get that hit?
Well, I think, yes. I mean, the short answer is yes, Michael. But in thinking about the overall theme of what makes you tick, and hearing Colin and you talk about things from your past, what gets me excited, because yes, today I'm CMO of paw.com, but over my career, I've been involved in many different industries. You know, when you're pursuing an entrepreneurial path, sometimes it steers you in lots of different directions. So I've been in many different industries, different verticals over the years. But what makes me tick, I guess, has always been the same. And that's sort of what you got me thinking about with this topic. So if I really go back even to my very young childhood, I was always a performer. In other words, I always enjoyed getting up in front of a crowd. I always enjoyed writing and doing creative activities, even from a young age of 7, 8, 9 years old. I was in a children's theater group when I was 10, so I've always liked that. That's always been what makes me tick. And as a professional or in my career, I've always managed to find ways to work that into my job. And that's probably why I've always leaned more towards marketing roles, even though as an entrepreneur, I've been a co-founder, I've been a CEO, I've been a COO, I've been a CMO. In all of those roles, I've always managed to work in performing and writing and creative activities, whether that's writing press releases or marketing mumbo jumbo, whether that's performing by being the person in the company who gives all the presentations and gets up on stage and speaks at events. In my entrepreneurial journey, the things that made me tick as a child continue to be the things that I enjoy doing the most and that give me that dopamine hit, and that I've fortunately managed to work into virtually every role I've ever had professionally. So that's what I was thinking of when I saw your topic about what makes you tick. So I'm not sure if I exactly answered your question, but that's sort of how I
But
looked at it.
you triggered something else, and Michael, I don't know if you thought about this one, but it's also about the people you work with make you tick. Like Michelle and Jeff and I had so much fun with Dot Club, and we lasted, and it helps you get through the years too. But I mean, we went to so many events, and we went to, we were always there at the bar at the end of the night, and we've always, had so much fun doing the meetings and doing the strategy sessions. It's who you work with as well. Gets you up in the morning too, and you're like, oh, I'm so excited! I'm working with Jeff and Michelle today. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually think when I reflect upon my own life, I'm agreeing with everything you guys are saying. But I also reflect on the fact that for me, there's that internal dynamo. And then outwardly, there's the people I work with and that sort of stuff as well. And there's something about working with people who are really focused. And I remember watching that show, many years ago, The West Wing. And I've watched it a number of times. And the thing I loved about that show, and the thing I've always hungered for in my own business life, is you can have a absolutely great big argument with someone, and the characters in the show would look at each other and say, and they thrashed out some big issue, and they'd look at each other and say, "Are we good? Yeah, we're good," and they'd move on. And there's that interaction, and I agree with you, Colin. There's that interaction with the team, and it gives it an enormous sense of drive, and it's a multiplicative in terms of effectiveness of moving forward. Like, for those of you who don't know Colin, Jeff, Michelle, I've known them for many, many years now. I've had the privilege of knowing them. And to see them in action, like Colin just did a throwaway line there about developing a global brand called Dot Club. And to see them in action was nothing short of remarkable, what they did. Like, to develop a global brand, typically speaking, you need $500 million to $1 billion. They didn't have anything like that, but they did it. They developed a global brand. To go to a session and see Jeff, they talked about presentations and things like that and being creative. To see one of his presentations was like art in motion. It was phenomenal. To sit down with Michelle and in a meeting and hear her wisdom in the meeting was one of the things that I hungered for. I'll never forget being at the top of the Cerulean Tower in Tokyo at a dinner, and Michelle was there and a bunch of other people, and you'd hear her, having great times and fun and everything, but then you'd hear some things she would say, and full of wisdom. And to me, that's what I live for in my entrepreneurship journey, is not just even my team, but it's the people that I can interact with. And as entrepreneurs, it's such a privilege when you go along and encounter people. And I'm singing my co-moderators' praises right here, and each one of them are phenomenal. And if you're in the audience right now and you're sort of saying, "Oh God, this is a bit sucky because hey, this guy's talking about his own moderators," you darn well right I am, because you know what? They're amazing people. And I know that in this show, The Complete Entrepreneur, I learned so much from them, and it's great. I really appreciate it. But I also learned from other people like Roy. Roy, this is an interesting topic. I hope you're finding it interesting and engaging. I'd love to hear your thoughts on who are you and what makes you tick. Roy, welcome to the stage of The Complete Entrepreneur.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you so much. Colin, nice to meet you. Michelle, nice to meet you. Jeff, and everybody else. Love the title of the room. I already had rang the bell and put it on my calendar, and I was alerted to it. And I said, I'm stopping right now and I'm jumping in to see what the guys have to say. So I love the what makes you tick, because what I like to ask people is that exact question, and I add another one. What makes you tick and what ticks you off? And then I tell them, okay, you can answer that question in either order, any order you want. And a lot of times people will start with what ticks them off. And so me being a body language person and now a digital body language person, I can read that person and kind of understand where they're coming from a lot better if I just had asked them, so how you doing? How are you? What do you do? So it's a little bit, maybe a lot of bit deep right away. I just love meeting people. I have a one-liner for that. It goes like this, guys. If you don't enjoy meeting people, guess what? People won't enjoy meeting you. And I learned this along the way. And another great one-liner I love, John Maxwell says, some of my best thinking has been done by other people. I like to modify that a little bit and say, most of my best thinking has been done by other people, starting with somebody who poured into me about 25 years ago after she said, you know that shy thing you're doing? I said, yeah. She said, that's the most selfish thing you could possibly do. Stop it. And I said, what? She sat me down, and about an hour later, she was right. I couldn't argue with her. I was literally the shyest person on the planet. I would not say anything. I would not talk. People could not like pry me open, not even with a can opener. And so what makes me tick these days is to share just that, to share my story and to say, if you are even a little bit on the shy side of opening up, or you have been hurt and you've got those walls up, stop. Let me pour something into you that was poured into me, and hopefully you will make the same decision I did, and just go out and start sharing your story with other people after they share theirs with you first. Because I believe what Maya Angelou says is best. And she says, Roy, people will forget what you said. Roy, people will forget what you did. But Roy, people will never forget how you made them feel. And I'll stop right there, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But you never told us the opposite, which what ticks you off, and you started it.
Well, what ticks me off is when people believe a lie a little longer than they should and don't make that new decision, because, we're all programmed by age 7 or 8, something like that. And everything we've ever ingested, from screens to parents to teachers to peers, it's all in there, right? And if you've been hanging around people, or you were brought into a family who didn't know the truth and they've been pouring some lies into you, or, the status quo of the undertow, as I like to say, of the status quo. Yeah, I just believe so many people would do so much better if they stop believing the lies that they think are true. So I'm against that, and I want to help people, because I ask them, I challenge them, why do you believe that? And they're like, I don't know. Well, where did you pick up that belief? I don't know. I just believe it. I've believed it all my life. I go, okay, well, maybe it's not serving you anymore because blah, blah, blah. Just like I was poured into. So thank you for asking.
Roy, fantastic. I loved it. Yeah, most of my best thinking is done by other people. How true is that? Yeah, you look at the entrepreneurs through the years, and this, like really prominent ones there, like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and so forth like that. And that's for sure. Like those guys walked into Xerox Parks and they basically pillaged the place because for ideas. And most of my best thinking is done by other people. And the shy things, it's that is so true. I think that one of the things that, and I know it's a challenge for people who are shy, and they say, well, that's just the way I'm shy. But in that process, you're actually denying other people a great blessing of who you are by being shy, and and it's a challenge to get over that. And I actually say to people, my own team, so if you're invited into a team meeting, it's because we expect you to contribute. If you don't contribute, then why the heck are you there? It comes down and to like, how do you manage your team? And I paraphrase that. Like, you obviously can say it much nicer than I just said then. But it's like, who are you and what makes you tick is so, so important, though. And what drives you? And it seems to me, Roy, that what's really driving you is this whole sense of, I want to help people. I want to help people
I
realize who
believe the
they
lie,
are.
Michael. I believe the lie. That's my why. Simon Sinek says start with why. And the question I like to ask people, so I ask them, is your why bigger than your but? And I pause and I say BUT. In other words, is your reason for what you're about to do bigger than your excuse, your but Roy, your excuse for not doing it? Like, I don't have any time. There's not enough time. It's like, no, there's plenty of time. You have the same amount of time I do. And look there's people that are billionaires on the planet. They had the same time you did. So don't give me that. And it's just unbelieving the lies that you believe were true. And I'll say, shyness is a decision. It's a choice, right, Michael? Because a lot of people believe it's like, that's just how I was born. I'm shy. I'm a wallflower. This is my lot in life, blah, blah, blah. And then they equate shyness with introversion, which is so silly because there's introvert, extrovert, and ambivert. And most of us are ambiverts. We can go, either way. Sometimes I want to be around people. Sometimes I don't. So there's that. And, I've been able to read people really fast and quick these last 25 years because of what was poured into me. So I love body language and now digital body language.
Yeah, how true what you're saying. Yeah, it really is. And Roy, please don't leave the stage. Love to go and come back to you with some different thoughts as we go on this journey unpacking what is it, what makes you tick, and why do you do what you do? It's such an interesting topic, I find, is that everyone is different. Everyone has different things that have impacted them either in their childhood, as you're saying, up to age 7, or whatever it is. There'll be significant moments in each of our lives that make us different, that make us unique, that make us who we are as entrepreneurs. And it's understanding that becomes the foundation in many respects to all of our businesses and all the things that we do. Like when I look at my own businesses, I look at profit as a score, not as nothing, basically nothing more than that. It's just a score. And the reason why you want to become more profitable, more profitable, more profitable, because it's a nice score and it's very measurable. And I love that. This does something to me. And I think, wow, what can I do with that profit? And can I invest in something else? Can I invest in other people? Can I invest in new ventures? There's all those things. And once again gets me really excited. But we have George here, number 420. George, I always love hearing from you. So, what have you got to say on this topic of who are you and what makes George tick? Welcome to the stage, George.
Hi guys, how are you? Yeah, this is a great, interesting topic here. I don't know. I think what makes me tick is, of course, I want to take care of my family. Of course, that's the priority for me. But also, too, I think I have a different outlook now after I had my massive heart attack after the surgery. My outlook totally changed on life and also I know that me and my brother, as this cannabis labs gets up and running now, you know a lot of those profits we're gonna put in a we just created a foundation to build synagogues around Latin America where there's no synagogues, and we're gonna give back. We want to do a lot of cool things. Scholarships, especially in East LA where I grew up from. It's not a really, what do you call it, rich area, you could say, but there's a lot of kids that are going to school and going to college, and a lot of the people out of East LA, they hardly ever get scholarships. So I want to do a lot of cool stuff with scholarships, just to give back, help people. Like, people have helped me, I want to give it back, pay it forward, because I want to leave a legacy. If I ever pass, I want to leave something. I want to be, in other words, I want to dispense my life. Like, I want my life to be dispensed, like totally like sucked out of me, in a sense where I did everything I needed to do and make an impact before I leave this earth. So I think that's what makes me tick, is more or less, you know, doing something for other people and helping other people get to that next level wherever they need to go. But this is a very cool topic. I really like this topic.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments there, George. But the question I have for you, George, is still ultimately, why do you want to help the people in East LA? I know it's where you grew up, but what is it that's driving you to say, you know what, I'm going to take some of my family's inheritance out of my pocket and I'm going to invest it in some people in East LA, and I may not even know them, but that's what I want to do. What is it that's driving you down that path that is making you tick?
Well, I think what's driving me to do that is there's a lot of successful people that have coming out that have come out of East LA. I don't, there's, we have actors, and there's some baseball players or whatever, people came out, but I never see them go back and say, look, man, we're giving scholarships, we're helping people. I think, I see all these successful, like, artists, like say Nipsey Hussle, and some of these other guys that made impacts in Los Angeles, where they give back to their communities, to the black community. And but I want to be the same way, but I don't want to just leave it for the Hispanic community. But there's, East LA is like a melting pot. So you have Asians, you have Hispanics, you have blacks. Not, it's really changed a lot. But I think, it's more just seeing people, just helping people, because I know I've been in positions where I needed help and people have helped me, and really crucial times where it took me to that little level, that little bit of help kind of pushed me another place. I think that's what I want to do, Michael, is really want to see people succeed, man, and maybe me be a mentor. And I don't want to be one of those guys that say, oh, look, I'm giving this. No, I want to stay low profile, let the foundation be the face of it. I don't want people to know that I did that. I just want to help people, in the sense, to get to their destination somehow. Because there's some people in East LA, very creative people out there, very creative kids. They're just looking for that avenue, or that, or looking for their purpose, right? And domains have really opened my eyes you know, to kind of, put behind a company. A lot of these people don't know about domains, so I want to be doing something around that to help some of these kids understand that they could be business owners. They could start their online business, or they could do whatever they want online. Just having that right vision and that right domain to help them be successful. But I think that's what makes me tick, Michael. Is I just want to leave an impact. I want to be an impact before I get out of here. You
Oh,
know.
I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing what you're doing, your thinking, your thought process. I want to go back a few years here because I've known you for years now, and you have been working on a project with your brother, the cannabis space, U.S. Cannabis Laboratories. I'm not certain if I got the name right, but the fact is, you've been working on that for about 5 years. And when you get into these very long projects, this time frame where it takes a long time to get across the finish line, what motivates you? Like, what makes you tick along the way? Like, can you keep your enthusiasm up and your belief up? And I know it's tenacity. I know you've got this, just sort of like you're like a pit bull and you don't let go. And I'm just curious, like, that to take that long to get to the finish line. What made you tick along the way?
Yeah, Colin, great question. I think Colin is I'm a really big believer in domain names, and I think I got the right domain names around our company. I think also too is you got to have a vision, and you got to have a long-term vision, the way I see it. Even though we ran into so many obstacles, it was unbelievable the stuff I went through. I mean, it literally, like, it's unbelievable. It's almost to the point, like, we're right there, but it's kind of, my struggles are coming in financially, because now it's like really crunch time. It's really been hard for me, and there's been many times, Colin, we wanted to quit. Me and my brother say, you know what, let's just throw in the towel. You know what, let's just sell the domain names and sell the little building that we got there, just get rid of it, and just let's just live our lives. But I think, Colin, is me and my brother have a bigger purpose, is really, touching communities in Latin America that don't have access, to religious freedom, you could say. And I know there's several countries that we've been to, me and my brother, and they don't have, they don't have no synagogues there to worship. They worship in houses, and they don't have buildings or nothing like that. And in Latin America right now, you could build a synagogue for probably a couple $1 million, $1 million, maybe at the most. And I think that's what me and my brother started doing. Is we're actually, my brother technically got commissioned, and I'm not really supposed to say this, so he's been commissioned by the chief rabbi of Israel to start. They gave us permission to do the synagogues. You could say they're going to be backed by them, and so that's why we're doing it. Is because we want to really help people, and not only for the Sephardic community that we're involved in, but also, like I said, you know, is just helping people, man, because that's where it's at. Even the little I've had through the years, I've always tried to help people the best I can. Don't question, just help them, and just give them the advice they need to get to that next level, and kind of mentor them, just like what you do to me, Colin. You mentor me, you help me, you pick up my phone calls, and I do the same thing to other people, that are just up and coming, that have visions and want to do something. And I think that's the tenacity that I have, that I want to finish this. I want to get it done, and I want to prove to myself too, and my family, that we could get something done like this. And like I said, it's been a crazy road. I mean, it's been long overdue. That the pandemic set us back, and like I said, it was really hard, man. But we ended up doing it. Now we're open. We're open now. So now we're submitting the data to the state of California on June 1st, and hopefully by July we're open. So we're there, and like I said, we set the foundation. Jason Schaefer is our attorney on the phone. He's the one that's going to be running our foundation, Jason Schaefer, and we're actually going to start, getting stuff going to for projects. And not only that, Colin, but in East LA is very poverty, very poor. It's like a unincorporated area, and there's people in there that can't even afford funerals, and we want to do stuff where we help people, help bury people. I mean, but they're gonna have to go through a process, of course. But I mean, we want to give people, want to give back, want to help people as best we can, and
And
just make.
I think what you're doing here with your, you have a business. It's a laboratory that monitors marijuana THC. But what you've done is you brought in this, if divert. You're taking the profits and you're putting that in to do good. And I think that a lot of businesses that we have, they may not be sexy, but what we can do with the profits and how we can share, those things can make a big impact in the world.
No,
Yeah, can I just come here, George, and just ask that question is, and Roy touched on it a few minutes ago, and that is why you do the things. And I actually asked that question before. So why are you helping the people in East LA? And you went through and you explained to me once again what you're doing and how you're going to do it and where you're going to do it and all that sort of stuff. But the question I want you to answer is, I'd love you to answer if you can, that is why do you do it? It's not because, and what is the motivation deep down inside? And I think I know what that is, but I'd like to see whether you can actually articulate that of why it is You're doing what you're doing, because that comes down to the topic of who are you? So why is it you're actually doing it,
Well,
George?
I think because I feel like I'm a generous person, and also my heart's in East LA, man. I mean, my the best memories ever had
Okay,
growing up
you described it an
were there.
interesting way. I'm going to interrupt you again, but you described it an interesting way. My heart's in East LA. So really, you're doing it out of a foundation of love. That's what you're doing it out of. Yeah, and I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, yeah, it's almost like love is seen as a weak thing. Yeah, no, you've got to be hard. You've got to you force your way through and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's times for that, but there's also times for love. And love is unbelievably strong. Put it this way, more wars have been created out of love than hate. Just look at the Trojans. But uh, but love and the love of the people in East LA, would that encapsulate really what you're on about? Is you want to express your love to other people?
Absolutely. Yeah, I want really, my heart's there, man. That's where, if it wasn't for the lessons I've learned growing up there, which I grew up in a really rough area. If I grew up, street smart, you could say. I kind of grew up. I kind of see a lot of things, and I never got involved. Unbelievable. Me and my brother never got involved in the gangs, which all our friends are crazy gang members. We never got involved in the gangs. That's what's wild about the whole situation. And I give credit to my mom. My mom was always on our ass, man. You better not do this. You better not, So we respected our mother, and we, even though we grew up in a hardcore area, you know, I always had that thought in my head that if I ever make it out of here and I make it, I want to give back and help, my friends' kids, right? That are maybe, or their grandkids, my friends' grandkids that maybe want to go to college. We set up a college fund for them and help them. I just to give back in a sense, because because I love my culture, the culture out of there. It's very, very unique culture out of East LA. I love that place, man. Even though it's rough, I still love it. My heart's there. And, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of freak out a little bit because, like I said, it's been kind of weird these last couple of months. I've had people, Michael, trying to reach out to me, want to interview me, want to do a documentary, me and my brother. I don't want to be out there like that. I want to be behind the scenes, low profile. Let's help people. Let's bring some smiles. Let's bring some tears. Let's see these people let's see one of those guys. What if I helped, you know, give scholarships, and one person became like really, really, really big, and now they could come back and continue the legacy, right? To help, um, because like I said, I think East LA has always been overseen by a lot of people, even like Oscar De La Hoya, for example, which a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know, but I used to box with Oscar De La Hoya when I was a kid. We boxed at the same gym when we were kids, and he was younger than me, but I remember him going every day, me going every day, and we are learning boxing, because boxing is a real big sport out of East LA. And and I remember his father. His father was a pretty hardcore guy, but when Oscar made it really, really big, he didn't give to that part where I grew up at. He went to another part of LA, which is a little bit on the outskirts of East LA, and started a gym, which he's still doing good. He's kind of giving back. He did a gym for the community, and their kids going in there and they're boxing and they're learning skills, and but mine's is different. I don't, I have nothing against boxing, but my thing is more internet. Like if I could create like a startup, like I would love to talk to Colin when that time comes. Hey, Colin, I want to get startup club and put one in East LA and totally bring people in there and help them, because like I said, if people believed in me, Michael, you, Michelle, Jeff, Colin. You guys always believed in you, and I've always believed in you guys. You guys always believed in me, even though I was still a small little guy running around these conferences trying to figure things out, right? But the exampleships of you guys have been so powerful in my life that is unbelievable. I mean, if I ever write a book, man, you guys will be on that book, because your exampleships were just epic to me. And the friendships too, where I could call and you guys pick up the phone, and like I say, I look up to all you guys up on this stage, believe it or not. I mean, you guys are like my heroes in a sense. And whether you guys don't, we don't talk all the time, but your exampleships are so powerful, and that's what I'm trying to mimic. I want my life to be a powerful exampleship for the kids and the people of East LA. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, George, can I just say, you're a larger than life character, and one of the most endearing aspects of who you are is your genuine humility. And it's a blessing for my life to actually know you. So thank you very much. I want to jump across, though, to Roy right now. Roy, you talk to people a lot about their why. And you mentioned Simon Sinek's book. By the way, if you haven't read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Your Why. I think it's called that. It's fabulous. It really is a great book. And not only for an individual, but for an organization, is discovering your why you do things. But Roy, you talk about the why, and we sort of drilled down even in George's conversation there, and it was his love for East LA. Do you find that quite often that love is a strong motivator for entrepreneurs, or is it some other emotion? Roy, I can't hear you. So if you're talking, are you there? You maybe still muted or something. Looks like something went wrong with Roy. Hopefully he'll be back. Oh, there he is. He's come
Is
back.
that any better?
Oh, there you are, Roy.
Okay, good.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. Yes, love is the most powerful force in the universe, right? Love is not a feeling. Love is a doing. Love is a good doing for the other person all the time, even if you don't feel like it. I want to kill my kids. No, you don't. Love your kids, right? So love is an action. Love is a verb. I love that. And where your heart is, that's where your treasure is. So whatever it is that you are seeking or moving towards, focusing on, what is it that gets you up in the morning, and what is it that keeps you from going to bed at night? And that's me. And that is, building something on the internet that I couldn't have done if I were alive in any other time during history. So with the internet at full force, I mean, I was on the internet, the information superhighway. Remember, guys? So I like to say, when it was still a dirt road, back with the orange screens in the early '90s, with bowed, all of that stuff. So I seen the internet when it was in its infancy and what it is today. So it's amazing. And then with the metaverse coming up, it's just incredible. Your imagination is not even limited to what can happen here. So that's where my treasure is to globally impact people that are supposed to be impacted by me, right? Because there's a lot of people that believe in scarcity. Oh my goodness, there's not enough of the pie to go around. All these people have been here before me, and all their, excuses, their butts. But Roy, right, is your why bigger than your butt? And sounds like 420, your why is way bigger than your butt, and so is mine.
Oh, what a great thing to say just there. That's for sure. I want to flip across to Michelle in a second. Yeah, just get your general comments about what's been shared today, Michelle. Once again, I think you're a wonderful person with great insights into things. But yeah, one of the things we're looking at is who are you and what makes you tick is foundational, I said, to you as an entrepreneur, is being able to understand that. And one of the things that I do periodically is I go away, just myself, and I go away with my notebook because I find it's faster to type than anything else. But I go away and I sit there and I may stare at the ocean or something like that, or a nice view or whatever it is, and I will just think, and I spend that time getting back to my why, because quite often, in amongst all the chaos of what it means to be an entrepreneur, we can lose our focus on really why we're doing what we're doing. And it's something that's so critical for me of understanding more about me and what is making me tick and what is making me do the things that I do is just so important. So, Michelle, I'd love to get your thoughts on this topic and just to hear from you on what's been said so far. Is there a way you can encapsulate things somehow?
Well, no, I just think it's, been an amazing conversation. And one thing that I really take away from it is, it's different for everybody, right? And I think that's an amazing thing. And people want to contribute in the way they feel is best suited for them, how they best think that they can help. And that's the beauty, kind of for me at the crux of being an entrepreneur. You have freedom. You have freedom to do it your way, which for me personally is a huge thing. Thank you.
How true. Having freedom to do it your way. Yeah, we've spent a long time, like this past hour, discussing who you are and what makes you tick. And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic. I don't know about you, Colin, but do you feel like it's like that, or we barely touched it?
Well, I mean, it's just interesting because everyone when other people talk about it, it begins to trigger things like Roy talking about the information superhighway and the beeps of the modems and
Oh, I
back in the
remember those
90s
days,
when
that's for sure.
yeah. And so Roy, you don't know this, but Michael and I were there, and we were so excited about what we were creating, this thing called the internet. I was doing it in Toronto, and Michael was in Australia. But just this idea of human behavior and technology and how they intersect and how technology can change people's lives, hopefully for the positive. We've often seen technology do the opposite with social media and other things, other innovations. But for the most part, that's been something that's driven me is to see how technology can help people and make their lives better. And that's motivated me. It motivated me when I lost almost everything in the dot-com crash and had to rebuild. And that was the one thing I looked at and said, this is what I really like to do, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with this internet stuff. And I did, and was successful from doing that. But I'm going to leave it off with this last quote from a famous philosopher, written by Tolkien, said by Gandalf. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is left to us. And George, you inspired me to remember that quote today. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is left to us.
What a great quote from a real icon, pop icon in the world, that's for sure. But I'd love to come to you, Jeff, just to finish up in the last couple of minutes. I know we got a couple of minutes left, but do you have any more thoughts on this topic? Would you like to share? Just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Well, I know it's just a great topic, and hearing from George, and George, you've been such a good friend and such an inspiration, and your story, and I think what makes you tick is so important, and that's authenticity. Like you are you, from the tip of your toes to the top of your head, and so many people are trying to put a mask on and appear to be something other than what they are. And I think in today's world, with all the craziness, authenticity, being pure, is so valuable, and you embody that. So it was great to see you and hear that. And Roy, it was a pleasure hearing your point of view of things and what makes you tick and what ticks you off. This was a great discussion, Michael. Probably one that can be continued in another session one day.
I think so, definitely. That's for sure, Jeff, that we're definitely going to come back and revisit this because it is the foundation of what it means to be an entrepreneur, that's for sure, is understanding who you are and what makes you tick. Yeah, I personally view, and I'd like to finish up this session with this thought, is the adventure of life is discovering who you are. And I find the mechanism of entrepreneurship is one of the best ways for doing that. And that's why we're all here, is we're entrepreneurs, and discovering who you are is in an adventure. It's amazing to discover all the things you can be and discover all that you can encompass. And that's one of the reasons why I love entrepreneurship so much. But speaking of entrepreneurship, maybe I can ask Colin this time. Colin, what's going on with Startup Club this week, and how's it going? We're over 600,000 members, correct?
No, 800,000. We hit over 800,000 members, and
800,000.
it's taken off. And if you're not already following Startup Club, it's time to follow us. I was just mentioning to a friend of mine that we had Joe Foster, the founder of Reebok, in about 3 or 4 days ago. And we found out that he was going to come on to Startup Club about 24 hours before it happened. And then we sent an email out to our email list. So if you're not on that email list, you got to sign up, because otherwise you're just not going to know when we bring the celebrities on, or the big speakers, the billionaires, the authors, etc. So go to www.startup.club and sign up to that email list. Tomorrow, we're talking about at 2 o'clock Eastern the impact of inflation. And we do that at the Serial Entrepreneur Hour every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. We take on a different topic. Is inflation your friend or a foe as an entrepreneur? And that's going to be an interesting one. It's something more of a political one. We don't typically take those conversations on, but we're doing open mics. So if you want to get on stage, talk about that, how it's impacting your business, please do that. This has been The Complete Entrepreneur. Thank you very much, Michael, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it. So next week on The Complete Entrepreneur, we're dealing with the topic of dealing with failure. All entrepreneurs, let me tell you, experience failure from time to time. How do you handle that? It could even be things like substance abuse or fight or flight, or you take things out on the family when you know you shouldn't be. What are your failures you're actually wrestling with as an entrepreneur? They could be business related, but they could be personal related. And we're going to begin to unpack that. How do we deal with failure? We know we failed. So how do we deal with it? Yeah, so it's going to be a great topic. So it's at 5 p.m. Eastern Time next week on The Complete Entrepreneur, where the topic of dealing with failure. I'd like to say a great big thank you to my co-moderators. They're always here, and it's fabulous to have them on the show. And in particular, I'd like to also thank Roy and also George, who were on here as well. And it's been great hearing some of your wisdom and your stories. And for you in the audience, you're the reason why we do this. I just want to thank you for attending. I'll see you next week, Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on The Complete Entrepreneur. God bless. Have a great week. Bye.
Michael, are you there? It's Roy, if you're there. I just left and came back, and the room is still open, so you will need to end the room in order to preserve the replay. And we had such a great show, I'd hate to lose the replay to this room. If you're there, Michael, I might back channel you.
On for a second. Hi
Hi,
there, Roy. Thanks very
Michael.
much for that. I think I need to close the room somehow.
Yeah, there are 3 dots up at the top right.
Yeah, I got it. I got it here.
Make sure you
And
just
the
click